What's up, everyone? Ready to start the show? We've got Tom from Base here, and he's got a hard stop at the top of the 30-minute mark. So I'm cutting off the jams, and we're going to just start talking to take advantage of the time. So, welcome, everybody. This is part of a recurring series I've been hosting with my friends over at Stabull. At the beginning of this year, I knew very little about stablecoins. And over the last 6 months, I've realized that is a mistake. So I have learned a lot by talking to these smart individuals. And every 2 weeks or so, we've been interviewing different people who touch the stablecoin industry in some way. And I continue to play the role of naive dumb guy who asks questions that other people maybe don't want to, but we'll learn from. So yeah, let's get into it. We've got a small group of speakers today. Tom, who is leading product over at Base, and Fran, who is a core contributor to Stabull. Why don't we just kick it off with some intros, and then we can get into some news, and then talk about some base specific stuff. So, Tom, you're the guest of honor. If you could do a quick intro, that'd be great.
Totally, yeah. Thanks for having me. My name's Tom. I'm head of product for Base Builder, which is really everything from the chain to the capital markets to base account and the base pay product, and then all of our tools for builders. So excited to share more about the importance of local currency stablecoins and how that's taking shape in the base economy.
Yeah, appreciate you. We probably walked by each other in Los Angeles at the event a few weeks ago. But I'm a weird pseudonym, so I didn't say hello, and I apologize for that. But good to have you here today. Fran, would love to hear from you as well. For anyone who doesn't know you, and maybe you can do a quick plug for the news today around base.
Yeah, and thanks for having us as always, Board. I'm Fran, I'm a core contributor. About 3 years ago, we did a piece of research asking the question of what's the most sustainable long-term trend in all of crypto, and the answer came back as stablecoins and RWAs. And so we scanned around and realized that there's a gap in the market for an AMM that's optimized specifically for FX and commodities. So we've been building this out for a couple of years now, and I'm pleased to announce that just today we went live with our first almost dozen pulls on base.
Amazing. And I was very happy to see that. I've said many times, Base has become my second chain after Ethereum. So the more products I can use personally, it makes me very happy. So glad you guys have brought it into the stable ecosystem. So Tom, I mean, maybe we could start off. I always like to assume that there are people who are listening who are a bit newer to this topic. If you wouldn't mind, maybe just give a brief overview of Base. What should people know, and what's the unique approach to EVM?
Totally. So Base is an Ethereum L2 that is a really started as a chain where the idea is that we want to help people all around the world transact, buy, sell things, build new types of apps. And we've really done a lot over the past almost 2 years of Base's life to bring that to fruition. So in addition, Base is also an app. So y'all may have seen Coinbase Wallet recently rebranded to Base app. This is basically a new way to earn from your creativity, which has social and trading experiences all built together. And then Base is really a suite of builder tools, things from like, hey, you're building an application, on-chain kit is a way to do that, or certainly the Base account SDK is this universal identity login that anyone anywhere can use, self-custodial wallet that they can sign into applications. And we're really excited about helping bring more people together as we bring more and more of the world's financial activity on chain because we think it's a better way to do business. And so you can send money to anyone, anywhere in the world for less than 1 cent in less than 1 second. So it's a pretty compelling way. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of great growth in the base economy.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Heavy user on my end, and appreciate all the work you guys are doing and how quickly you're moving. It's crazy to think how old Base is as a chain. It feels like it's much older than it is based on how much you guys have output. So well done on that. I think we want to slightly adjust the order of operations here. We were going to talk a little bit about news and then get into Base, but since Tom is somewhat limited on time, let's get into more of the base related topics, and then we can kind of cover news afterwards, and maybe Fran and I can stay on and talk a little bit more about that. So before we get into kind of base specific stuff, Fran, maybe you can talk a little bit about the importance of frag or rather talk about fragmented liquidity. There's obviously a lot of places for people to engage in DeFi, but as it relates to stable coins in particular, what are the problems and the opportunities? And how are you guys trying to solve it with stable?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, the big macro trend is that the real world is coming on chain. So trillions in fiat currencies of different types, and shortly a whole array of commodities, definitely securities, which are a little bit more fragmented because of regulation considerations. But that's the big trend. The capital markets and the FX worlds and the commodities world, the legacy world is moving on chain. And so that's driving a Cambrian explosion of innovation where thousands of teams, tens of thousands of teams around the world are building out ideas, some vibe coding, some well-funded and professional, and seeing, which tools and infrastructure and rails and compatibility, the market has a need for. USD stablecoins are experiencing significant growth, and they're like gravity moving towards chains like Base, where it's quick, easy, the tools are there, the ecosystem shows longevity. And so first, USD stablecoins kind of increase in their usage and circulation. What we've been waiting for and is now evident is occurring is non-USD stablecoins to start adoption. So the guys in the Brazilian team, the BRZ products, for example, they're doing incredibly well in terms of the circulating supply growth of their non-USD stablecoin, mainly because they're starting to get integrated into various different payment rails in banks, so that it's very easy for locals to say, here's that, 20 real that I owe you, or whatever the case might be, peer-to-peer, cheap transfer of value without the friction of the SWIFT network and interdealer, the banking system, interdealer brokers and all the rest. So I see the next sort of 6 to 9 months is that first steep adoption curve for non-USD and a little bit of RWAs as well. And then probably a whole decade as people recreate the global financial system, but on-chain, with the full suite of derivatives, options, tokenized, everything basically. Does that sort of paint a picture of what you're after?
Yeah. So I think that answers kind of the macro question of why stable coins. And then Tom, I mean, as it relates to base, and you guys have the famous expression, base is for everyone. You want to get 1 billion people on chain. You want to support, local currencies and builders all over the world. Just to ask the obvious question, like why stable coins on base? And I'll give you my assumption answer, which is most people are used to using fiat currencies, which we call stable coins, and not necessarily crypto tokens. So if you want to get everyone, meaning everyone on Earth, on chain, it probably makes sense strategically to look at stable coins. But would love to hear if I'm wrong or if there's something missing from my assumption.
That's absolutely right. The idea of crypto in most people's minds is probably highly volatile, kind of speculative assets, maybe like Bitcoin or ETH or even, meme coins or other things. But the reality, of course, is that there are stable coins, which are a huge, huge part of what crypto and the on-chain economy is made up of. And you really, these stable coins are pegged to one type of asset, whether that's USD or whether it's Kenyan shillings or Brazilian reais or any of these different around the world currencies. And so for base to be for everyone, we want a stable coin in every global currency, really to enable anyone anywhere to come on chain. And Fran, you spoke well to the benefits that stablecoins offer over traditional financial transactions. Especially moving money across borders, because base and on-chain markets generally are 24/7, 365 days a year, very cost effective. I had an experience where I had to send some money from United States to like Luxembourg area that was like a big pain in the neck. I actually had to print something out. I had to scan it back in. I had to pay like $30. It took a long time to get there. That's no good. And so really stable coins that are borderless, super, super high performant and cheap to move around are great. And really they enable people to transact, to buy and sell in the currency which is most natural for them, which is an important part. Even if people around the world want to hold US dollars and earn yield on it or whatever, as stablecoins, maybe they want to hold USDC. It's important for them to be able to just transact. And when they go to buy milk or they go buy a T-shirt online, our research shows, and talking with builders and regular people all around the world, that they want to do that in the currency which is most natural for them. Otherwise, I'm sure you all have had the experience of seeing a price in something other than your standard region's currency. The first thing you do is you're converting it to your own currency. And so we want to enable that more and more commerce coming onto base by having these local currency stablecoins. Right now, we've got about 14 and more coming every day. And that's over $4 billion worth of stablecoins on base. So we're really starting to see some great traction in all these different areas around the globe.
No, that's perfect. Those examples are really helpful. That was kind of the unlock for me, which is when people are shopping, offline and online, they don't want to have to be doing a lot of math to understand if they're getting a good price or a bad price. You use the grocery store as an example. I mean, my experience in gaming in that industry is that there's a reason that games use their own token, which has a stable price. So you know that this sword is always going to cost a certain amount of game token, and it doesn't change day by day. That can really destroy a game economy very quickly, which is why people continue to use kind of a stable currency in game, whether it's on chain or not. So in terms of base, I mean, where are you guys starting prioritizing with stable coins? Like obviously, like we all think about USD, but as you're thinking about rolling out stable coins beyond the Americas, like how are you guys thinking about that sequence, if you can share at this point?
Yeah, so first off, that I think is an important point is Base is completely permissionless. Anyone can deploy a set of smart contracts or a protocol or an app onto Base. It's not something where we have to give you permission or anything. Now, we have worked with different folks in the ecosystem that we think are bringing a great stable coin product to market to help kind of through that release process and get to ground. And some of the ones I'd highlight would be in Kenya. So, for instance, we were in Nairobi last year for Base Around the World, that tour that we did. It was amazing to see the innovation as part of our build-a-thon and just more generally. So, M-Pesa is the main kind of mobile payment solution there, and bringing more of the Kenyan shilling activity on chain. We're actually seeing some great opportunities there. Some of you may have heard of this new form factor, mini apps, which is in the base app and also other applications like Farcaster, where you can have an app inside an app that you don't have to sign into. So users can just pop it open. It already has their account signed in. It knows who their friends are. And we're seeing some great traction with Kenyan shilling payment mini app that connects right to M-Pesa. So it's a really simple way for people on the ground to transact. Another one would be New Zealand. So they're kind of in a tough spot from time zone isolation, let's call it. Oftentimes when it's their working hours, 9 to 5 on weekdays, the global traditional capital markets are closed. And so stablecoins are a great way for whether it's freelancers or contractors or even real-time businesses to be able to transact in the time that makes the most sense for them. So they're not having to be up at 3 a.m. just to, connect with somebody and receive a payment. In Brazil, certainly huge, I think over 200 million people, very active economy, also very high transaction rates, both for like credit cards and everything and for foreign exchange. Very high tax and spread on the exchange there. And so that's a use case where we're seeing a lot more traction with the Brazilian Real on base, because on-chain primitives like Stable and others are just so much smoother to transact, offer this 24/7 borderless experience and better spreads and less fees. And so thinking about all these together, when we look out, what is there, like 192-ish countries, something like that, prioritizing them, very logical way might be by population or the size of the money supply, but also just opportunistically seeing where there's great consumer adoption of on-chain already, where there's great builder energy, and just wanting to help great teams bring great stablecoin products to market to really enable and empower the people in all these economies around the world.
Yeah, I mean, just an observation on the base app, which I've been using for the last few weeks. What you've seen in other regions of the world outside the United States is this intersection of commerce, or payments and social. You've got, things like WeChat, and you mentioned M-Pesa. There's been a lot of sort of, I can pay this person, I can connect with them, I can send them messages, and that's kind of been lacking, at least in the U.S., because things like Cash App and Venmo, those aren't really social networks. Like, yeah, people have fun leaving comments or whatever when they send money, but they're not really designed that way. And I feel like Base is one of the first and largest examples of, here's what it looks like when you can, pay somebody with stable coins, you can send them messages as well. And then you can, use applications that help you do various things. So I'm sure you guys, kind of studied what's happening all around the world, and it's nice to see somebody actually like integrating these things all together. So hopefully the first few weeks of your guys' launch has been pretty productive, and you've seen some solid growth. I'm sure there's a lot to still do, but I guess from an observer standpoint, I'm glad to see this trend growing, and kind of shocked that no one else has done it.
Yeah, million percent. Well, really, it's just like thinking from first principles about some of this stuff. And like, here in the United States, when I quiz my crypto skeptic IRL friends about, hey, so how might you send money to somebody in Toronto? Oh, I just Venmo it to them. Well, Venmo doesn't work US to Canada. In fact, Canada, the standard way for them to send payments to each other is by this kind of like embedded in email payment system. And so as soon as we break out of our bubble, and we all know the world's getting more and more interconnected, it's only reasonable, and it's only logical that we have to figure out ways that are more borderless ways to transact. And I think that's a big part of both peer-to-peer payments, and also like with our Shopify payment and base pay with commerce. Now we're integrated right in Shopify at thousands of merchants, more being activated every day. You can go in there and use your USDC to start with, stablecoin balance on base to buy products from thousands of Shopify merchants. And so this is just an example of, not only can we send money back and forth, but we can use this money on chain, on base, to buy things, whether it's in the real world or, at an online Shopify merchant store.
Yeah, so maybe we can talk a little bit about builders. I mean, that's a big focus area for you. You mentioned merchants, right? There's kind of, physical merchants, like I have a coffee shop, et cetera, and then you've got your online merchants and e-commerce builders, and then you have kind of a third category, which is not necessarily merchants, but people who build things online. So I'm sure it's like a very broad subject, but maybe you could talk a little bit about, where can people get started? Like, if you want to if you're a builder, if you're decent at code or or vibe coding, I guess, like, where can you start, where can you find tools, and where would you recommend people go, if they want to start experimenting with stables on base and building in that ecosystem?
Yeah, really the easiest way to do it is a one-liner code to integrate with base pay. So this is going to enable you to accept USDC. You can forget even having to have a connect wallet button there or anything. It all works seamlessly with like sign in with base and with one line for base pay. And so the place that I'd recommend people go is, we've got an accept payments guide on the base docs. I'll actually tweet it out right now if people want to jump over and see that. It's dead simple. Part of what we're trying to do here is both work for, the on-chain native devs that have been here for a long time building in the space and understand how everything fits together, all the way from the chain foundation all the way up through the front end. But we also want to make it dead simple for people that are maybe just starting their development career, or they've been a developer and they're just learning about what on-chain the benefits that on-chain can bring. And so this is basically one-click USDC payments with one line. It's really nice base pay button, simple and clear way that you can experiment with. And this is a great starting point for anybody looking to start, building with stablecoins on base.
So correct me if my assumption is wrong here, but I run a website. I've been selling things mostly to my own country. I want to be able to sell my services to anyone in the world. In the past, I have my, like, accept credit cards, that sort of thing on the site. I've played around with accepting cryptocurrencies, but that really isn't accessible or easy for a lot of people. Now I can basically go on my whatever Squarespace website, enter a line of code, and now people can pay me with their wallet very easily through Base. Like the same as, say, like paying through like PayPal, if they had it, like essentially it's going to be the same UX for a user, right?
Yes, and without all those barriers that we think about having to go sign up to a new service and everything, BasePay integrates with just, a self-custodial wallet where people can hold their stablecoin or crypto balances in general. There's also some fancy features too, like if your balance gets low, it can actually pull from your connected Coinbase account. That's something called Magic Spend, which is a pretty sweet way that enables people to use more USDC balance than might be in that specific account right there. But yeah, you said it totally well. Whether it's Squarespace or Wix or any website that you set up, your own vibe coded, Next.js app, drop this one line in, and that's going to enable people from anywhere in the world to pay you in stablecoins.
Yeah, no, it's really important, and I think back to the point made earlier about not making your customer have to do math, to pay you. This is really critical because you don't necessarily want to be selling a service for X amount of Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever that changes in value every day. It makes your life really difficult. It can irritate your customers. So taking it in fiat is awesome. So yeah, glad to see you guys enter the competition. There certainly is it is certainly a crowded space now in e-commerce, right? Like every payment rail wants its little icon there, pay with X. So it's getting it's getting crowded, but I think you guys have a good head start as it relates to kind of your core competition. So good luck there. Yeah, I mean, as continuing to talk to builders, is there anything that you'd like to see people build that maybe isn't available yet? Is there kind of a white space where you'd like to encourage people to investigate to strengthen the base ecosystem, and also just because it's really important and it's needed?
Yeah, so looking at the audience here now, people that are listening in, I see some familiar faces, I see some new faces, and thanks everybody for popping on with us. And I'm just seeing faces, different people from all around the world. It's so cool. And so what I'd put out a call to everybody here is think about a problem, almost like mine. Like, let's say I'm doing some work with somebody in Toronto. How am I going to send them money? A problem that I've felt in my local region. Think about a problem that you have faced related to moving money or moving value around the world, whether it's buying and selling something, it's splitting the bill after dinner. I don't know. There's all different cases where we're kind of like, oh, this is going to be a pain in the neck. We have this feeling that something's about to be a pain or difficult to do, or sometimes even hit a dead end and you can't do it. Think about those problems and then figure out how to solve it. And I'd encourage all y'all to try and build it as a mini app because this is a great way to get access to, you know, hundreds of thousands, soon millions of people that have the app installed, that have a base account set up, that's funded. In the Farcaster Social Graph wallets right now, there's over $47 million worth of USDC. And as base app is built on top of this social graph. So there's a lot of people that have funds, that have stable coins, that are ready and willing to use them. Have this need that you recognize in your region, and then try and build a mini app that integrates base pay, and DM it to me, get some feedback from it. We'll try and amplify as we can and really get people being able to get past this dead end. So that's the kind of call that I'd give out to all builders that are listening in right now, or people that want to try building for the first time. Fire up V0 or Claude Code or any of these tools like Lovable or Bolt that can help you just vibe code up a prototype and give it a go.
Yeah, and I've said this, on previous shows, but me being pissed off about not being able to send money from U.S. to Canada quickly and cheaply, it was a $40 fee, is why I got into crypto 10 years ago, and that has been a good decision thus far. And what's wild is that this problem I had continues to be a problem for a lot of people, especially outside U.S. and Europe. So this is a really important conversation, and basically I would say, like, of all the work that's being done here, just making it more accessible for people to send money as cheaply and quickly as possible is super important. So yeah, I mean, we covered off a lot on base. Tom, I appreciate you sticking with us. I know you got to run in like 4 minutes, but figured maybe we can talk about one news story, and you touched on it a little bit. And Fran, maybe you can do like a quick overview or re-overview, but Shopify. I mean, USDC payments on Shopify. That's kind of a force multiplier, I would say, for for base, but also just for stable coins in general.
Big time. Oh yeah, go ahead, Fran.
Well, no, I was just going to chime in and say Shopify unlocks a huge user base, and what Base is doing is kind of symbiotic to the growth of stablecoins. So stablecoins can't grow without infrastructure like Base and the various different developer tools that you guys have put out. I'm just curious personally if you're going to go and when beyond USDC to integrate non-USD stablecoins. Obviously, there's a bit of bias there as we've built a AMM specifically optimized for the stable coins, not just USD, but far beyond. And we'd love to see all that kind of work through the plumbing. You know, as Base grows, developers like Stabull can grow with Base as its addressable audience and plumbing becomes more efficient.
Yeah, and so beyond just, the American US dollar and our partnership, Coinbase's partnership with Circle USDC, there's some great ones that are growing and that are really finding traction. One comes to mind is CADC, the Canadian stablecoin. This is one of the larger supplies of stablecoins and larger volumes. Paytree is the issuer. Really keen on this. And I think, the way that the Shopify base kind of collaboration materialized is with this on-chain commerce payments protocol. And so being able to plug in different stable coins would be a really compelling next step for us to take so that people, again, can transact in the currency which is most natural to them. And so I think it's not something that we have any announcements about today, but I love the direction there. And I can see more and more opportunity to bring, again, more of this commerce on chain onto Shopify and Base Pay with more local currency stablecoins. And like you're alluding to, we can grow together in that regard.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Tom. Perfect. Well, we hit our 30 minutes. Tom, before you head out, maybe you can just do one more time a kind of a reminder of what you're working on and maybe some some suggestions on where people can go to learn more.
Yeah, so Base's mission is to build a global economy that increases innovation, creativity, and freedom. And such a big part of that is being able to control your money, to be able to do with it what you want, spend it where you want, invest it where you want, and do it at whatever time you want of the day. And so, really, what we're working towards here with the local currency stablecoins that are developing on Base and with products like Base Pay is to enable regular people and builders all over the world, and certainly traders and market makers and capital allocators to do more of their activity and earn more on Base. And so let me get a tweet out right now. I appreciate you being mindful of the time. I got to jump to someone else. But yeah, Board and Fran, thanks so much for having me and wishing everybody a productive day.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Thanks
thanks
so
for coming
much.
on.
Talk to you soon. And
Cheers.
and for everybody else, we'll probably hang out for a bit, talk a little bit more about stable coins in the news, a little bit about stable. I see a lot of familiar faces listening in, so appreciate all the friends and acquaintances that are hanging out. I might bring on some more folks from the stable team as well. While I'm doing that, Fran, for anybody who's newer, hasn't joined us for this series, would you mind just doing a quick elevator speech on what stable is and perhaps the
Sure.
base news today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I said earlier in the intro in the beginning, we did a piece of research about 3 years ago asking the simple question of, okay, what is the long-term sustainable trend in crypto? And the answer came back, in 60 odd pages, but it can be surmised that the real world is moving on chain. So, trillions of dollars worth of FX, commodities, and later securities would be far more, the velocity of money would increase on chain. And of course, once money or value is programmable, you can do so much more stuff like pay board $20 if it's humid in Arizona next Tuesday, or whatever parameters you want. And so we thought, okay, does the industry have the infrastructure? There's a lot of different DeFi solutions out there, but are they actually optimized to be as efficient as possible? So we looked at things like liquidity theory and thought, well, can we create a more capital efficient, decentralized piece of software where people can swap one asset to another and basically keep more in their pocket? Can they dust off their tokenized golds, their tokenized Brazilian real, their tokenized Turkish lira, or even their USD, and stake it in their own wallet, self-custodial style, to earn an interest rate instead of being locked up with a bank for 3, 6, 9, 12 months on a term deposit, whose rates are typically going to be less than, extracting it from DeFi. So that's effectively what Stable.finance is. It's a optimized AMM or DEX piece of software, however which way you want to look at it, that mimics the functionality of the Swift network to an extent in terms of total finality and the clearing and settlement of swapping one asset to another. Some like to describe it as an alternative to Swift. Some like to describe it as a potential alternative to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange as we get commodities on board. We've got a partnership brewing with VIEIRA to bring tokenized bonds to the platform. So we'll have products that aren't available elsewhere, which will be quite interesting. And we're very much looking forward to just expanding out more chains, more pools, more products, and the whole thing's designed to be self-service. And then we have a path of decentralization or progressive decentralization where we're actually going to attempt to democratize rate setting. If you think about the duties of any country's central bank or their treasury department, fiscal and monetary policies, those activities are going to end up becoming replicated on chain as well. So why not let market participants decide which trading pair has how much APY. So you can accumulate voting power and vote for your preferred pool to increase rates where you're staking, for example. So those are the types of functionality that Stabull will be rolling out. But it's a dead simple app. It's designed to be simple. There's largely two things you'll ever be able to do on a platform. Swap one asset to another efficiently, or dust off your assets and add them to a pool so that you can earn interest rates. And we've just gone live with Base with a handful of initial partners. So we have euros, Brazilian real, Oracle free dollar, Mexican pesos, Swiss francs, and a couple of other things. And the interest rates right now are somewhere between 50% and 1,000%. And that's simply because we've just launched these pools, so the TVL is pretty low, which means early bird gets the worm. So if anybody out there wants high interest rates on a self-custodial account, early bird gets the worm, jump in the pool, and earn some stable governance tokens in the process. Happy to dive into any particular area here, Board.
No, I appreciate the overview, and we added Seb to the stage as well to talk a little bit about it. So there's a lot of people who want to just keep their money in stables, right? Not everyone's a degen who wants to just make sure that it's in an asset that appreciates at a high rate and and dumps at a high rate. So most people, I predict, in the future, when they are keeping their money on chain, will keep it in stables. And personally, I will say it's just completely unacceptable for any stable coin to not be earning some sort of yield in the future. This idea of parking your money somewhere, say a bank, and it's sitting at zero, or it's sitting at a place where you have to pay them fees, not okay, not at all the future. So I think that what you guys are building with Stable is going to be really important. It'll be one place where people can do more with their money. If you are on the degen side, if you are an investor, a trader, somebody who engages in liquidity pools and DeFi, and if you're somebody who really watches global markets and foreign currencies and just kind of fluctuations between countries, I think Stable is a really interesting place to spend some time. And as Fran said, it's still early, and so the interest rates are pretty juicy right now if you'd like to come in and participate. Seb, I think you've been listening to the conversation. Anything you want to add in terms of like the new base integration or maybe some new features on Stable?
Yep. Thanks for having me again. I just wanted to wrap up quickly with some, base products and projects that we are excited to start using as like builders on base. The first one, we didn't get a chance to mention earlier, but Flash blocks. I think that's a very interesting innovation. For those that don't know, that's basically offering like a lot faster confirmations for transactions, close to 200 milliseconds. So I mean, it kind of gets forgotten by now, but for people coming from traditional finance or other trading experiences, there is still a somewhat of a wait, and it can be a bit slower on chain. Obviously, that's lessened a lot on layer twos like Polygon and Base, but definitely excited about starting to use flash blocks so we can like completely speed up the whole UX on Stabull. Some other ones which have already kind of been on Stabull for a while, but Coinbase Smart Wallet, not sure if that's been rebranded to something, but the ability to, within Stabull, just spin up a new wallet within seconds using like passkeys. That's extremely helpful for us, particularly for users we're trying to attract that are new to crypto and like just recently came on chain. They may not have a wallet, and there's now a facility in Stabull to just start immediately. The other one I saw
Quick
teased
pause.
recent. Sorry.
Quick follow up. Flash blocks. Can you explain what that concept is for someone who's not familiar?
I'll do my best. But basically, it's like confirming transactions almost outside the kind of traditional blockchain model. Yeah, and I believe to integrate it for builders, it's almost as simple as using a flash block aware like RPC endpoint. We use RPC endpoints within Stabull to expose TVL, APR, but also to write transactions like swaps and deposits. And as long as you're using a flash block aware RPC endpoint, the transactions can confirm at a lot faster rate.
So
Sorry,
I'll
not the best explanation for you.
no, I'll interpret that as my money moves faster and easier. So that's pretty much the TLDR on all this tech.
Exactly.
It
The
it's
last
yeah.
one I was going to mention was I just saw it teased recently, but there's this idea of the base account and also sub accounts, which almost give you kind of a separate virtual wallet view for each dApp, which I think is kind of cool. So you can have your local stablecoin and RWA wallet view for your Stabull sub account, and then you may have your meme coins on another dApp as well. So yeah, super excited about continuing to build on Base. Our kind of why we were attracted to Base in the first part was obviously their interest and support for local stablecoins. I see Blockboy is listening. He's put a lot of good analytics on June about just how many local stablecoins have been added to Base in the past 3 months. So definitely go and have a look at those dashboards.
Yeah, appreciate that. So let's kind of cover off on a few pieces of news, and then I think we can close out. So we all have heard about, I think, the Genius Act. That has passed. There's now updated guidance on accounting rules for stablecoins. So all the scary things that many people doing taxes and monitoring business income and profits and losses. There is clear rules there. USD peg stablecoins basically are now kind of considered cash equivalent. There's been guidance on yield earning stablecoins. So yeah, I mean, any reactions from you guys on this? My quick take is like this is moving a lot faster than I expected it to. But what are some other implications people should be considering?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a kind of follow up from the Genius Act, but I think the accounting standards and as you say, the clarity around that is almost the bigger part of the Genius Act passing that people often forget. That will be a big unlock for particularly institutions and businesses and their holding of stablecoins and like multinationals transacting with stablecoins across the world.
Let me add to that. So, look, I think there's an air of urgency in the air for the reason that there's kind of a fight between centralization and decentralization occurring. Albeit products like Base would be more in the middle, sort of bridging the gap between CeFi and DeFi and all the rest, and it's absolutely necessary to have it that way. But what's unfolding over in Europe and Asia is, very centralized solutions, CBDCs, and they're rolling out in October. So I think that the US regulators are cognizant of all of this and just simply saying, you know what, we need to accelerate this transition to on-chain. We need to get payments, in a compliant way through, regulated entities like a publicly listed company. Base as a perfect catalyst to build something like Base Chain and then enable sort of payments for everyone. That would be sort of the safe and sane way, as opposed to just pure decentralized cowboy land stuff, because of the on and off ramps that power the usage there. So, it's going to be a wild and different world within a year or two. We're going to look at Latin America in particular, parts of Africa, and of course the United States. And it's going to be a polar opposite of the friction that is being added in places like Europe and parts of Asia. So that's kind of my perspective, is there's a rush on to build out infrastructure as the world restructures.
Yeah, makes sense. And I know you guys are moving fast at Stabull. Obviously, the team at Bases as well. Yeah, I think this has been a underlooked at area, and now it's kind of catching people a little bit by surprise. And it's quickly going to become one of the largest sectors in the cryptocurrency space in general. So and potentially disrupt world economies in a good way. So I think it's kind of going from like 0 to 60, 0 to 100 very, very, very much sooner than expected. I think the last news item that caught our attention was Nigeria. They have their own version of the SEC. And so basically, they're putting it out there that stablecoin companies are extremely welcome in Nigeria. We know mobile payments and digital payments have been, very popular for a very long time in that region. Now the country is explicitly advertising that, wanting builders to build there. We've got China testing out stable coins, to help preserve capital, from leaving the country through Hong Kong. So it's not just the U.S., right? It's pretty much every country on Earth is either very explicitly moving in this direction, or will feel left behind and will quickly follow. Is that kind of a fair take?
Yeah. I mean, you can either, like, I live in Central America, and I've met a lot of different banks from Guatemala, Panama, Nicaragua, etc. And they are very comfortable in not changing things. And so I've been talking to them for a couple of years now, and I can sort of see that the panic is starting to creep in, where they're, inviting me back to different summits and private events where it used to be like, all right, we'll keep an eye on this stuff. And now it's like, we really need a strategy, because they're starting to realize that others are coming into the market that can lend at better rates, that can offer better interest rates on deposits. Money can now, transmute from essentially analog to digital with stable coins. And then very soon, a whole array of commodities, of real estate tokenized, bonds tokenized, all of that's going to be freely accessible to anybody with a Web3 wallet. So, that's our focus at Stabull, is just to be that bedrock infrastructure where we can have every product that comes online from every reputable provider, and just make it as capital efficient to swap one asset to another or earn an interest rate. I particularly look forward to having more liquid gold products on our platform, because normally to buy bullion, you actually have to pay storage fees or vault fees, whereas this is the other way around. You're paid from the swap fees that occur between USD or other currencies and your bullion exposure. And furthermore, I think the path forward that's unfolding is everybody's looking at various different integrations. So DeFi is like a mesh network. You can find a neobank with that's already web free. They already accept USDC or Bitcoin. And if they make a very simple integration into the likes of Stabull, then all of a sudden every currency available on a platform is available to their tens or hundreds of thousands of users. And they won't even know that it's routing through Stabull or using some CCIP infrastructure from Chainlink or a base wallet connect integration. We're as an industry, we are obfuscating all the complexity away, and that's how we get that first billion users on chain.
Appreciate that. Well, awesome. I think we've had a great session. Big shout out to the base team and Tom for joining us earlier. Anyone who missed that, you can listen to the recording later. Before we close out, Fran or Seb, can you just give a quick reminder of how people can get involved with Stabull right now, especially if they're sitting on any stable coins and not doing anything with them? Just let folks know where they can go.
Yeah. As Fran mentioned, we're launched on base today with 7 pulls, with more to come. That's Euro C, BRZ, Oracle Free Dollar, a South African stablecoin called ZARP, BIEIRA, which is a Turkish lira peg stablecoin, MXNE from Etherfuse, and Frankencoin, a Swiss franc stablecoin. So for all of those, we've got a liquidity incentive campaign through Merkle. But yeah, you can find out more by going to app.stable.finance, or our website is stable.finance.
All right, perfect. Well, Seb, Fran, thank you guys for chatting and kind of closing out the show. We'll be back very soon with another edition of this series. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening live, for all the questions that came in, for listening to this in the future. Hello, future human, listening to this show. If you didn't get to listen to it with us here, and yeah, again, stable.finance. Fran and team, thanks for helping me, come along for the ride. I continue to learn more every single day, including what flash blocks are, sort of. So yeah, appreciate having you here.
Thanks for hosting. Always a pleasure.
All right, take care, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Bye.
I'll have a better explanation for you next
I
week.
expect a full email recap of this, which I won't understand. All right, take care, all.